camera angle's okay.
It is good. Hey, everybody, I'm on
Yeah.
here with Jenny Hodge, and you're in Australia, right, Jenny?
Correct. Yes, I am.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
I'm excited to have this opportunity to talk with you. In fact, we just connected for the first time on Zoom, and I just asked Jenny if it would be okay if I were to record this because she's actually in a market where she's doing what they do, and I'm
Yes,
going to let her tell a little bit about it. So, Jenny
I
from
am.
Jenny Hodge from Australia. So, tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about what you're doing right now.
Well, we're in at the market as psychics. In fact, the funny thing is on our term of employment, it's a Muslim. The market manager's Muslim, and he put on our contract on our term of employment that we were tarot readers. But actually, we're not tarot readers. But we're in here. We want to look psychic. The setup here, you might be able to see it a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it actually looks very psychic. And we purposely want to look psychic because we want to attract only people that go to psychics and go and do tarot reading. We don't want to attract any Christians whatsoever.
Well, you probably won't unless they're trying to
Yeah,
convert you. Uh,
that's which
so
they do sometimes.
this is really impromptu, and we were just connecting for the first time just to talk, and I'm like, I got
Yeah,
to film this because you're in
yeah,
that environment doing what you do. So
yeah,
now you're using the word psychic, and you're at a
yeah,
fair
yeah.
where people would normally go to a psychic, and they're going to
Correct,
come to you instead, not knowing that you're
correct.
not a psychic, but you're I love the way Derek Grosskirth, the truth seeker. I love the way he puts it. He puts it, you're basically there, a sheep in wolves' clothing.
Correct. Right?
Yes,
But even though we are, to be honest, we believe that we're better than any psychic anyway.
absolutely.
But, yeah, so when we offer them a 20-minute service, we believe that they're going to get a more professional, a deeper, a more real service than any psychic will ever give them anyway. So in that way, we feel like a bit like Jesus with the Samaritan woman at the well. We're going to give them the best word of knowledge that they ever got in their life, and that's our aim, is to give them a knockout word of knowledge in a destiny reading, and then to lead them into the most incredible God encounter in that 20 minutes.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah,
So now you'd shown me a picture up to the side where you're at, and it says Destiny Readings.
it does, yes. Can you see that up there?
Yes, yes.
It's a big banner and it has a menu on it at the side. And they choose off the menu. Everything in here does look pretty psychic around here. They actually choose off the menu what they want, but most people are desperate. It doesn't matter whether we go to an Aussie football match or whether we go to a psychic festival. It doesn't matter where we go. We get queues of people lining up by the hundreds over the 3 or 5 days. And basically, they're desperate. They're desperate for an answer that no one can give them. They're desperate to know their future, what their future holds.
Now, in the process of you giving them this destiny reading, I mean,
Yeah.
does Yeshua come up in that conversation, or how does that?
Uh, we call him the Spirit of Truth.
Okay, okay. Now,
We
what if?
don't use any Christian lingo at all.
Okay,
Yep.
and what if people want to know more about you and about what you do? Where does it go from there?
Do you mean Christians?
No, I'm talking about the people that come to see you and they want to
Yeah.
know more,
Yeah.
so they get a word from you and they are, impressed with the fact that you're getting something that nobody else
Yep.
has ever gotten.
Yep.
So they're like, who are you? What do you,
Yeah. Yeah.
where do you get
Well,
this from?
first up in our introduction, we actually tell them that we are operating only from Christ's Spirit.
Okay.
So the word Christ is said in the very first 2 minutes of any destiny reading. So there's no pretense. They know, because a psychic will channel a spirit guide, and we explain to them that we can hear the voice of Christ. So we're able to, well, in their terms, channel Christ, but in our terms, it's we actually hear his voice. So therefore, we're operating from the highest heaven.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I know that there may be people watching this recording and just thinking
Yeah.
that this may even give them the heebie-jeebies because when
Yeah.
they have seen psychics, they
Yeah.
they operate in fear. Versus what we're teaching people is that when you start stepping into the heavens and you really begin to understand
Yeah.
who you are,
Yeah.
then just like you're doing, you're realizing you can operate in that environment and you can bring Christ to all these people, and it's such a,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
very very powerful, very very
There's
powerful.
there's there's no fear. In fact, we know that when the team enter an event, the devil is very scared of us. Very scared.
Yeah.
Because we will be seeing 600 people at each event for 20 minutes each, and over half of them are now seeing the Spirit of Truth in person in the encounter. And therefore, once they see him themselves, they want him in. They want him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
they
is so
want him in.
powerful.
Yeah, it
well,
is.
now how often do you do these events?
We do about 10 major events per year, so we're seeing about 6,500 people per year. But we're 4 days a week right here at the market, so we're permanently here 4 days a week.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, we have a team of 60.
Okay, so when you say you have a team of 60, what are the team people doing? How's that work?
The team people are all trained in being able to hear God's voice very clearly. And so they know how to lead a non-Christian or a New Ager into an encounter, to facilitate an encounter, and they're also really tops with word of knowledge. They're top. They
So,
can hear birth dates, times, and places if necessary, but we avoid that because that's generally what psychics will use, and it locks people into a false destiny.
uh, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, yep,
That's interesting and very powerful. Um,
yep.
Now, you showed me a group of tables that are next to you. Is that where you have all these people that are helping you? They come in and sit down across from somebody?
Yes, yes, they do, Dane. They do. They sit across from someone just like you would at any psychic reading. So you're one on one opposite your client, and we hold their hands so that we have a physical connection to them. And we also always do free healing. We offer free healing, physical healing with it. So probably about a quarter of all the clients do, especially here at the market, love physical healing. So they're amazed when they're, as soon as they even come, they're straight away they're physically healed, and that leaves them very very more open to the encounter.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
So now you're wearing some things. I'm just curious, do you wear these things all the time, or do you wear these just for the fairs in the market?
I do. We get asked this very much all the time. In fact, we've been so accused by the Calvinists of purposely trying to look like this. But the funny thing is, everyone on the team, most of them are from a New Age background, and we like looking like this. And I do look like this every day, but I do have actually glitter on my face because tonight we're going into the festival. So I look a bit more glittery. But apart from that, we do look, in general, I guess, I don't know if there's a term, if you can look New Age, but I guess we do. But my husband looks just like you. And we dress him up in shirts like Todd White wears for festivals. So we dress him up pretty wild.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, so how did you get started in all this?
Well, actually, it started from a dream, a night dream that I had. And in the dream, um, I lost my mother's red purse, and her purse went in a bus, and I had to chase the bus. And it was in a town that was winding down to a seaside coast, which was somewhere, I thought, in Europe. And in the dream, God told me the name of the town was Port-au-Prince. And in the morning, I looked it up on Google, and I found out that the town is exactly as I saw it in the dream. And Port-au-Prince is the capital of Haiti. And he said, I am taking you now by default, into the very capital of witchcraft.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
So I'm super excited because these are things that I would love to see more Christians willing to step into.
Yeah.
And I know that you got to be called to it, but too many I think are afraid to step into it because yeah, it's
You know,
a
yeah,
challenge.
absolutely. And you know what? Me personally, I don't believe you do have to be called to it at all. Because to me, I believe we're just fulfilling the mandate at the end of Matthew, where Jesus said, "Go into all the world." He didn't say, "Go where you're comfortable." He said, "Go." And if you look at what Paul did, going into the pagan towns and the pagan cities, he wasn't afraid to go in. He went in the power of the Holy Spirit, and that's how our whole team are trained. That some of them were just very ordinary. They wouldn't even call themselves an evangelist when they started, but we've trained them to lose all fear, especially fear of man. And now their mandate, they see that mandate that they're called to go into every area. And it is, I feel like it is a terrible, terrible shame, especially here in Australia, and it would be in America, where we have thousands and thousands of festivals, and always we are always the only ones in there.
Wow. Wow.
And you'll get a festival of 14,000 people, but there's 12 of us in there, and there are no other Christians in there ever.
Wow.
And that's an indictment upon the church. And this would be the case, I believe, in America too. And I reckon Jesus' heart would cry and bleed over this, because here you have these young people, you have music festivals with even 20,000 at a music festival of young people under 40 with no one to help them, no one there. Yep.
So,
and that's our heart.
So just for the record, because we kind of just jumped right in,
Yeah.
For people again who are listening, they don't know you. You are a confessed Christian. You've received Christ in your heart. Is that correct?
That is correct. And to our spirit filled, we operate in the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Yeah.
Now, when you're encountering some of these people, I know the question is going to be asked, do you ever have opportunity to lead them to Christ, or, what kind of language might you use if there was any desire there?
Over half of all the clients in the God Encounter are actually meeting Jesus as the gift giver, as the Spirit of Truth personally themselves, and they are talking to him personally themselves, and they're having a one-on-one encounter with him. We have been criticized for this as well, because Christians have said, well, how can that be? And it's the same way that Muslims are having dreams about him as well.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, he doesn't care how he does it, and he doesn't care what vessel he uses through it. He wants people, and he wants to show up to people in any way that he can. And if you give him the chance, which we are, um, these these new agers are spiritually hungry and they're searching for something spiritual,
Yeah.
and they're open already. They're open.
Well,
Yeah.
I, in great agreement with you because I've shared this story before, but I
Yep.
used to be an evangelist. I loved, doing evangelistic meetings for the church that I
Yep.
was a part of and all that years
Yep.
ago, and
Yep.
so an evangelist at heart. But
Yep.
it really came to my awareness in the last few years that just leading people to say these magic words does not
Exactly.
mean that it's going to change
No.
them. It's the
And we
encounter.
don't do that. We don't say that prayer at all.
Yeah.
In fact, the word pray is banned off the team.
Okay. Okay. So, but my conclusion, over the last few years has been that it is absolutely all about them having an encounter with Christ that is going to change
Yes,
them. So, if all I
absolutely,
do is lead them into the heavens in order to encounter Jesus face to
absolutely,
face, it's up to
absolutely.
Jesus after that, and it's up to them. They have to make the choice
It's
whether or not they want to allow him to come in and to have that intimacy with him. It's up to them. There's no magic words. They have to make a
That's
choice.
exactly right now. And we really don't even like the term evangelism, and we don't like the term conversion
I'm sorry I
because we're
used
not.
it.
Yeah, we're not. I know. It's okay. We're not out to convert them. We want to honor them like Jesus really did with the Samaritan woman. He didn't straight away he didn't openly convert her. He actually spoke to her with honor. And I believe that the whole evangelism concept of trying to convert people is really a little bit screwed up, because I don't believe that's how Jesus operated with people. Rather, he loved them and honored them and healed them, and he healed thousands of them without actually even asking them, do you now want to get born again, or do you now want to convert? He didn't even ask them.
Right.
So yeah, we just want to operate in love, and by
Yeah.
doing that it leaves the person their own free will still intact, so that they now have still got the chance to ask, well, what was that? Who was that? Who did I just see? Who was it I was talking to? Yeah,
I
so it respects their free will, because I believe God doesn't crush people's free will to believe in him. And I think this is the difference probably between our team and a lot of evangelist teams, in that we're not going to um, try and coerce someone, and we're
no
certainly
manipulation.
no,
Yeah.
no.
I'm
But
so right there
what
with
we
you.
are going to do, yeah, what we are going to do is shock them. We are going to shock them, because our words of knowledge are shocking, but we will shock them, because we will shock them with signs and wonders. And I really think that that's how Jesus did operate, in signs and wonders.
Yeah.
And the New Agers love that. They love anything that's touchy feely. They love encounters. Yeah,
So, do you train people to do what you're doing?
we do. We do. Yeah,
So, if
yeah.
someone wanted to get connected with you, how would they get connected with you?
They can just look us up on our website, which is just christalignment.org, and there's an email on that website. And but we aren't training people overseas. We get many requests from people overseas, but it's too difficult unless they fly us over. We need to be present in
That's
the
what I was going to
training.
ask. So, if you were taking people through a course to train them,
Yeah,
how much time would that take? So, let's just say if someone wanted to fly you to the States to train a
yeah,
group of people,
yeah.
how much time are they looking at?
Well, we're only looking at 2 days, really.
Okay, so you
It's
have
not.
a
It's
training
not hard.
system.
Yes, we do. We have a full-on training system. We've trained up 5 other teams around Australia, all around Australia, and they're operating very well. And they have their own name now, and they have their own business cards and their own banners and all kinds of different cards we use. We do give them our cards or sell them these cards, but we don't need cards to do this ministry anyway. So
Yeah.
we do train them very thoroughly. We don't let anyone do deliverance, and we don't let anyone do dream interpretation without having done the John Paul Jackson dreams courses. So they're not allowed to do that. And deliverance, we're very fussy about how we do that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well,
But we're hoping to set up some sort of online training system. But again, I feel that it's not something that can really be learnt in a book or online. I think that it needs to be done in person, really.
that is interesting. You know, my wife and I, we have the Ultimate Impact course that is done online.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet we do meet through Zoom. We have,
Yeah.
you know, 40 people that are, you know, joining on a Zoom call to do
Wow.
to do training.
Yeah.
We thought in the
Yeah.
beginning that
Wow.
it would be very benign. You know, you just wouldn't have that
Yeah.
intimacy.
Yeah.
But
But
you
you
know,
do.
if a great meeting in person was a 10, I would
Yeah.
give the online Zooms a 9. They're
That's
really, it's really
wonderful.
good stuff.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
you know, you're not there for the physical,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. It's
it's really good.
wonderful. And thus saying that, you're right, we actually have trained the teams around Australia, some of them by FaceTime Live. Yeah. So that is how we
Yeah.
will do that. Yeah. We, of course, they won't have a non-Christian client in front of them. That's the big difference. The difference is the ministry is not for Christians. So practicing with Christian friends isn't going to do a lot of good, really. Not really, because Christians praying with Christians is very, very different to dealing with pagans and non-Christians and tarot readers and witches and psychics, and it's not quite the same. It's not really.
I would imagine. I would
Yeah.
imagine. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. 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 Well, I just really want to say I appreciate you. Appreciate what you're doing. Now, normally I would have started with some other questions. Again,
Yeah.
this is totally unorthodox for what we normally
That's
do, but I just had
yeah.
to take advantage of this
Yeah.
time. So one
That's
of the questions
fine.
we usually ask people when we have them on for the first time is,
Yep.
how did you get to where you're at today? I mean, you were obviously, probably anyway, at one point kind of in the church box, and
Yeah.
you somehow went through some changes and migrated to where you're at now. You evolved to where you're at now.
Yeah.
What were some of the key things that
Yeah.
took you there?
Okay. Well, I have been a Christian a very long time, 44 years, 45 years, because when I was 22, I had an experience where I actually saw Jesus standing in front of me. So
Okay.
it was a supernatural experience. And my dad is an atheist and a nudist. He's a nudist. So
Okay.
I've not really come from a very extremely Christian background or religious background, really. And prior to having this experience with Jesus, I lived in an art commune because I am an artist. And that was very hippie. It was back, I actually had the experience of Jesus back in the Jesus Revolution in the hippie 70s. And that's when it happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
My husband now, he's my second husband because my first husband suicided, and my second husband now, before he had an experience with Jesus, he was a Buddhist and a New Ager. He was actually an astral traveler.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So he certainly did come from a very New Age background before he had his experience, but I wasn't so much. So I've remained basically the same for 45 years. And it was only that dream, I can honestly say, I was in a deliverance ministry um, before I had that dream. So I have, after my husband's suicide, I felt like the devil tried to take out our whole family, which he did. My husband went to Africa with Reinhard Bonnke,
Mm-hmm.
and he was joining that team, and he was taken out by witchcraft, we believe. And he came back very sick, and 5 years later suicided. And we believe the
Wow.
devil was trying to take out our whole family.
Wow.
My son now, his son, Ben Fitzgerald, is head of Awakening Europe and Awakening Australia. And it's kind of payback time for our whole family.
Wow.
Payback. It's payback time. So we're in payback mode continually. So I did have a deliverance ministry really with no fear of the devil at all before I had that dream. But
Wow.
it was the dream that led me to do this ministry. And 1 week after the dream, we thought, why don't we just go down to a local seaside market and put up a tent, and we'll just put up a silly little blackboard sign saying free healing today. And we did. And we took some of our young people that we were mentoring with us, and they loved it. And a witch happened to come to us that day in the tent. And she said to my husband, she said, you have two huge white beings standing behind you, and they're terrifying.
Two black beans that were terrifying.
Two huge white beings standing behind you, and they're terrifying. The witch said that.
Huh. Huh.
And when she said that, we thought, okay, we think there's something in the dream. There's something happening here. And
Wow.
on that same weekend, a guy came to us who'd been sold into the occult as a baby, and he was covered in satanic tattoos from head to toe. And he heard that we were at the market, and we still don't know how he ever heard that we were actually there that weekend. And he said, can you deliver me? And we did a 3-hour deliverance, and he slept that night for the first time in 22 years, and we baptized him down at the lake.
Wow. 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 Wow.
And those things were a good sign to us that the dream was real.
Amen. Amen.
Yep.
Well, I do you attend a church anywhere?
Yes, we do, don't. Yes, we do. We attend a supernatural church in Melbourne.
Okay, well, I just want to say kudos to that church for, because I know other people that are kind of, doing some things you guys are doing. They're out there, and they've been so persecuted by the church that they
Absolutely.
don't go to
Yes.
church, and I don't blame them, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yes, I don't blame them either. And actually, even our church, which Ken was one of the founding members in that church, like many years ago, in the first year of this ministry, they hauled us in and they said, you're corrupting the young people, you're taking young people to nudist festivals. And we got wrapped over the knuckles for a year, and then they slowly got their heads around it, and now they fully support
So
us.
I gotta ask then. So are some of these festivals that you go to, are they nudist festivals, and you're
Yes,
going in
they
there?
are. Yes, we do.
Okay.
The biggest one, the biggest hippie festival in Australia is optional dress, and probably a quarter of the people, they're mostly young people, but some old hippies. They're nude, they're naked, and they have the God encounter completely naked. Completely naked.
Well, and I've heard of that stuff. I've heard of things like that. Even at here in the States, they have the Burning Man, and
Exactly.
I've heard
Yep.
of things like that happening where
Yep.
someone comes in nude and
Yep.
sits down, has an experience, and
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, again, for me, I know you have a little bit different take on it, but for me, it's like I think you'd really have to be called to that because
I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't know when. It was funny. I took my daughter-in-law in the first year, and she said, "I swear I will not be laying hands or doing any God encounter with a guy that's naked." And I looked around on the first day, and there's a guy in a t-shirt with nothing else on, bawling his eyes out, absolutely bawling his eyes out. And she laid her hands were on his head, on his shoulders, with absolute compassion. And he came to Jesus, absolute compassion for him. And she said, I don't care if they're naked. I don't care what if they're black, white, whatever they are. I don't care. And
So
it's the compassion. Yeah.
I know somebody's going to ask, because there's the story of the demoniac that
Yeah.
got saved, and then the next time
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
see him, he's in his right mind and he's clothed. So I'm
Correct.
curious if the guy that you were just sharing about, if you got to see him later, was he clothed or did he?
Yes. Yes, he was.
Are you
And we've had
serious?
that. Yeah. And we've had that experience so many times there because we've gone into this particular festival now 8 years running. It's so like Burning Man, but in a different way. And it's amazing how even they will sit down naked even on our chairs for the encounter. But if they brought a shirt along with them, within 5 minutes they will pull the shirt over them. But we will never
Wow.
say anything, never, never.
I just say hallelujah, because I mean that I mean that really touches me, that your ministry would be touching people, and bringing them to a place where they're receiving Christ. So here's the thing that I would just say to any of the viewers that are watching right now, because or watching this recorded, because the fact is, people like Jenny, people like Derek Grosskirth, and others are going into these places willing to do what I can guarantee you 99.9% of the rest of the
Yes,
church is not willing to do, and that it's
yes,
important for you as listeners to have their back, not be stabbing them in
yes,
the back, but to have their
yes,
back and to be praying for them, that when they're going into these places, that they will
yes,
have the impact that the Father wants. I mean, that even goes right along with the ultimate impact, that we want you to have the ultimate impact.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's so important, because the more people that are praying, the more powerful it is as well.
Yeah.
But we did have to make a decision in the first year of the ministry, and it was actually Ben Fitzgerald that was advising us, my own son, and he said, "You know what, Mum? You're not doing this for the church, and you're not doing this for Christians. You're doing it for only one person, Jesus. And he loves that little lost sheep. He loves the little lost lamb that's not in the fold. And he said, there is no one else. You don't need approval of anybody else." And that was a turning point for Ken and I. And we made a decision. We said, we don't care now if we're hated by the whole world, which we have been hated by a lot of Christians. We're
Yeah.
never hated. We're never hated by New Agers. We're never hated by a non-Christian, and that's a very disturbing fact about the church. How quick they are
It's
to
hard to
crucify
admit, but it's
their
true.
own. Yeah, they love to crucify their own people, but we find that even a witch or a really satanic person will hesitate to do that. And I find that alarming in the church. But I guess if you use the analogy of Jesus with the Pharisees, they did it to him, so they're going to do it again.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's because the church is still teaching from a box mentality, and they've
Yeah,
they've
it
tried to put
is.
God in a box, and when you do
Yeah,
that, all
it
you do
is.
is put
It
yourself in a
is.
box, and then
Yes.
it becomes fearful to try to step outside that box. And so anything that's outside of the box brings fear. When anything
Yes.
that is not of God, I mean, if it is of God, there will be no fear in it. If you're fearful,
Absolutely.
then
Yes.
and that's where I would just say that
Yes.
when
Yes.
if someone's listening to this and it brings up fear in you, well, number one, just take that to God, but just understand that there is freedom when you're able to step into these arenas, these areas that are outside of the
Yes.
box. There is
Yes.
freedom there when you begin to understand there is no fear. There is no
Oh,
fear in God, and that we can
absolutely.
just go
Such
into these
truth.
places with the light
Yeah.
of God, and
Yeah.
it's going to
Yeah.
dispel all the darkness,
Yeah.
and just to
Yeah.
know who you are. Know who you are.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
you carry
such
the light.
freedom and there's such joy. Like, we see at the Naked Festival, we see roughly 600 people, and we run 7 hours of workshops per day. So we workshop all day, non-stop.
Wow.
And we offer all kinds of different workshops, not just destiny readings, but we do that one all completely free, and they line up, little hippies lining up in a line of 200, and I have to give them a little raffle ticket with a number, and the first 100 get in, and the second 100 we have to turn away. Wow. And honestly, Jesus' heart would melt, because your compassion goes through the roof, because these are the lost sheep.
Yeah.
These are the little lambs that are meant to be coming into the fold, and they want what we have. We're not forcing it on them. We're not trying to convert them. They are queuing up for an hour to try and get in to see us. They want what we have. Yeah. And that's the difference. That is the big difference. Like, there's no fear in that, because when you see them lining up in the hot sun like that with their little ticket with number 1 or number 50 on it or number 99, and they're sitting cross-legged there in the dust waiting to see us, you go, oh my goodness, oh, how could we not go? How could we not see them?
Yeah.
I would die for this now. I would die for it. How could we not go? How could we say, no, I'm too scared, or it doesn't suit me, or it's satanic? How could I say that when they're just people? They're not satanic, they're just people. They're just little lost people with a burning fear about their future, that we have the reassurance about our futures.
Yeah.
They don't. Don't.
Yeah.
They have all kinds of fears that they're waiting for you. They're waiting for a Christian with word of knowledge. They're waiting for a Christian to come along and help them. And they want it.
Wow.
They want something supernatural. They want something spiritual. They're waiting for it.
So good.
Yeah, and we just can't say no. It's cost us so much, not in money anymore. It's cost us so much in time, in preparation for festivals, and for me right now, this very day, I have to say, my dad is dying. He's dying this week.
Oh no!
But I'm still gonna go into the festival. Wow. My dad's an atheist, and he's a nudist, and he faces eternity this very week. He's about to step into eternity, and he's no different to the thousands we see every year that are about, they don't know when, but they will step into eternity. And the call on our heart is to love.
Yes.
And yeah, that is the call.
Yeah. That is the thing. You know, we really promote these 3 plumb lines that the Father downloaded to us, and they simply are, you know, the cross of Christ. That, you know, if you believe that Yeshua is the only way to the Father and eternal life, then okay, we're on the same path. Second one is to love, honor, and respect, because you and I, we won't agree on everything. There's no 2 people in the world that will agree on everything. So let's respect and honor one another and love one another. And then the third one is ask the Father.
Body doesn't do that very well.
Yeah. So that third one is just ask the Father. If you do have questions, ask the Father. And so we don't do doctrine. We're done with doctrine. It divides. It doesn't unite. It divides.
Yep. I was just sent an email this morning by possibly a Calvinist, I'm not sure, but they said, well, where's your mission statement? They said, we looked up your website. Where's the mission statement? And I just replied back, I said, the website's for non-Christians. Sorry, dude. It's not for you. It's not meant for you. And I don't have to give a mission statement if I don't want to. And I'm not going to put a mission statement on that website. So bad luck.
You carry the mission in your heart. You carry it on the scroll that the Father has given you. And to put a mission statement out there would just be the one thing that the non-Christian who's looking for something they feel is safe. You know, and that just I do not want to diss on the church. You know, I don't want to do that. I want to honor and respect them. But at the same time, it is true that
Yep.
my wife and I, we've been entering into this understanding, and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. The restoration of all things, and
Yes.
that is teaching about
Absolutely.
a God that loves beyond what we ever imagined. And who are
Yeah.
the ones that want to throw stones at us and say, "What are you talking about? That's wrong." It's the Christians who teach about this loving God that has agape love that is unconditional, that they don't
Yeah.
understand. And so when we
Yeah.
start walking into a new revelation of that love,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the Christians that are fighting it.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I think
sad, and
I
I'm
think
sad for
we've
them.
gone. I think we've gone like as as a church. I really believe not all churches. So I'm not lumping in all churches around the world because we absolutely love Bethel and we adore the way that Bethel do church. But in general, it's sad to me how most churches have gone so far away from the Book of Acts, like the simplicity of the gospel, the simplicity of the teaching, and on our team we teach them that they're not going to get in any other doctrine. We don't need any other doctrine to do this, but to just try and live out Acts of the Apostles, to try and read it and know what they did, know what Jesus said, and to actually go and live it. And it all becomes very simple when you do that,
Yeah,
as you would
yeah,
have found as well. It becomes so simple. It's not complicated. It's just a very simple gospel. And it's so simple that New Agers love it. They
yeah,
love it.
yeah.
Yeah. They hate religion. They hate religion.
Wow.
They hate complicated religion. They hate it.
And it can't blame them.
No.
I somewhat, you know, yeah, I'll just say that I would, in some ways, I kind of envy you that you're able to just jump in and do that work
Yeah.
because I have an
Yeah.
evangelistic heart.
Yeah.
I just love what you're doing. That you're actually reaching the people
Yeah.
that most of the rest of the church is not even going to think about trying to reach them, and yet
Yeah.
you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're doing it.
Yes.
So
That's awesome. Thanks, Gil. That's awesome, eh? Well, I agree, and I think we are very privileged, and I do thank God every day for that dream that by default we've landed in this ministry. Um, and but I feel like every person with a heart in Australia and all around the world with a heart I just want to encourage people. All you have to do is please read the end of Matthew. Jesus didn't say stay in your church and have a party. He didn't say go to another conference. He didn't say you're not ready till you've gone to 50 prophetic conferences. He didn't say all that. He just said to very simple people, which the disciples were, he just said go. He said go because I'm with you. Go. And every Christian has God in them. So I'd like to encourage people to lose the fear of man. The fear of man is one of the biggest fears that you'll ever address in your lifetime because it will stop you just going. And even though you might not want to do a ministry like ours or want to deal with any people that are into tarot reading or psychic, that's okay. There's still 20 million people walking around out there in the supermarket and down the road, and they're waiting for your word of knowledge too. They're waiting for a God encounter. You carry the God encounter in you. So we want to encourage people to take the God in you, the God encounter in you, out onto the streets, out of the church. The biggest myth in the church is that unsaved people are going to walk in that door. The biggest myth is that for some reason they think that our churches are so incredible that that unsaved people are just going to want to walk in the door. They're not. They're not going to walk in the door. They're not.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they hate religion. They hate rules. A lot of them hate rules, or they've been burnt by them, or been burnt by a religious upbringing or church. So we have to address it in a whole new way of doing evangelism, which is basically just get back to the Bible, get back to how
right,
they did it
yeah,
in Acts of
yeah,
the Apostles, and see if that works. Because It does, because signs and wonders, if someone has a injured back and they suddenly get healed on the spot, they're going to take notice of what you say. They are.
Yeah,
They are.
absolutely. It's
They'll
powerful.
want to listen. Yeah, it
Take
is.
notice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jenny, I usually do about an hour, and we've actually gone about 45 minutes, and I got some stuff I want to put on the front and the back of this, but
Yep. Okay.
thank you for
That's
your time.
no
This worked
worries.
out perfectly.
It's been great. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Gil, did you want to briefly address the cards that we use, because
Oh,
they're
yeah,
always
yeah, yeah. If you have a
they're
minute
so
to do that.
controversial, aren't they? They're really controversial. We get in trouble with these the most, but they're actually nothing. They're just a picture on the back. So they're photographs that a lot of them are photographs that I've taken. There's a building with a wall art on the building, and
Yeah.
the client will just choose three of these cards. They only see the back of them, and they choose three. And just from those three cards alone, we're able to get incredible word of knowledge into those cards.
You know,
So,
that is interesting because Arthur Burke has a system out there where it's prophetically picking pictures,
yes,
and it's, what does this mean in your life, and so it's like Arthur Burke can do that and get away with it, but if you take it into a psychic fair, all of a sudden now
yeah,
it's taboo. It's like, what?
yeah.
No, so
Yeah.
it
the
is.
the psychics are using, like, an actual clairvoyant or psychic is usually using your full on tarot cards, which have absolutely full on demonic occultic images on at least 7 cards in the deck. Ours have a picture with the word love on the front. That's just one set. And they have a photo on the back, most of them, which I took. And you just go, how is that remotely resembling a tarot card? I do not know.
Yeah.
It is no way even resembling a tarot card. But people will see images in our photos of cards laid out on a table, and unfortunately and sadly for these Christians, they will say, "Oh, look, you're using cards."
Yeah.
They
Well,
never find out what cards.
unfortunately for Christians, oftentimes it's more of again, the fear and the knee jerk reaction that
Yep,
causes them to throw the baby out with the bathwater,
yep, yep,
versus looking at it, from the other side, is saying, well, Jesus said, I have all power and authority. Luke 10:19, I have all power and authority over the enemy. I am the
yes,
light. He is the light in me.
absolutely,
I am the light. So therefore, I can walk into any situation with
absolutely,
love,
yes,
and I can observe
absolutely,
that situation and
yeah,
determine at that point,
yeah, yeah,
what is it that the Father would like to do?
yes,
What would Jesus like to
yes,
do in this situation? And I
yeah,
believe that if they were to walk in on you and see that, they would get
yeah.
excited about what you're
They
doing.
would. I believe they would. And it's crazy in a way, because really the whole Bible is full of supernatural things that
Yeah.
people do. Like, the disciples actually drew straws. They cast a lot for the 13th disciple. Now, what is that? If
Yeah.
What is that? That's like a game of chance.
Right.
By chance, they drew a lot to find the 13th disciple. They didn't use a prophetic word. They drew a lot.
And for the most part, we kind of breeze right over that, or we just say, well, that was a
Yeah,
God thing. It was a way
we
God.
do. We do. And in the Old Testament, the part of the covenant was to use the Urim and Thummim, which are
Yeah.
the stones, and that was
Yep.
actually ordained by God. And you go, hang on a minute, does God ordain stones, like divination by stones, or predicting the future by stones? Well, yes, he did. Yes, he does, and he can.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's still very, very different. People don't understand that operating by word of knowledge is extremely different from the way a psychic or clairvoyant works. And I think that is the number one fallacy that the church doesn't understand. A psychic or clairvoyant is using generally a spirit guide. And
Yeah.
we disable spirit guides. We are experts and professionals in getting rid of spirit guides. So
Hallelujah.
we know them by name, and we know many of them, and we know we know what are the open doors in people's lives where they come in, and it's so different. It's not even, the third heaven realm is not even remotely like the realm where spirit guides operate. So it's so different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally get it. I love
Yeah.
your heart. I love what you're doing, and you know, just encourage Christians to pray and have their back, and
Yeah.
again, not be
Thanks.
stabbing them. If you find something fearful or wrong, you know, this is where you'd apply the third plumb line. If you're seeing something here that
Yeah.
doesn't,
Yeah.
you know, kind of
Yeah.
freaks you out a little bit, go to the Father and ask.
Yeah.
Hey, what
And
is this?
they can always email us. Like we will answer every email, so they can directly ask us about the ministry, and we will answer them. And I guess the bottom line is, just don't be afraid to take the love of Jesus out of the church. It doesn't live in the church.
Amen.
The church is just a place to be built up, to a place of worship, which it was in the New Testament, a place of worship, and then you go out. Then you leave the church. Then you go out of the church.
Yeah. Well,
That would be
why don't you
good.
give your website one more time, so if people want to get in touch with you?
It's www.christalignment.org.
Okay, so christalignment.org.
.org. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jenny, I just appreciate you so much. Thank you for being on here, taking the time.
Thank you.
Such a
blessing.
blessing.
Thank you just so much for having me, and for giving us the opportunity to talk about this important subject. And
well, I tell you, if I get a chance to do a fair, I would love to invite you guys over here. It's a long trip, but
we'll be there. We'll be on the plane.
Love it. All right, Jenny, thank you so much. Thank you to all of our watchers, listeners, and we would just want to bless all of you. Thank you for staying tuned in. Take care. Bye-bye.
Amen.